Welcome everyone. My name is Joanna Portela and I'll be your host for today's webinar. This is the second webinar of a series 3. And before we start, I would like to go with you through some rules. You are all on mute, so if you have any questions or comments during this session, you can do them on the Q&A session on the right of your screen or on the chat window. And if you do send some questions or comments for the chat, please send them to all panelists. If you experience any sound issues during the presentation, you may also try dial in through the numbers there are in the email you received at the email confirmation. And we also posted the link to these numbers here on the chat window. So with that, let's start. Greg.
Good morning. My name is Greg Chumley. I'm an independent analyst who reviews workflow enhancement solutions and best practices. I recently reviewed EFI's Fiery Job Flow, so EFI asked me to co-host this webinar to bring in an outside perspective. I encourage you to visit www.printintelligence.org to learn more about my blog, product briefings, and organized links to vendors in this space. In the next 45 minutes, we're going to cover the financial impact of workflow automation, the challenges and benefits, how Fiery Job Flow approaches automation, demonstrations of how Fiery Job Flow can be programmed to automate workflows, a few real-world customer examples, and resources which are available to you. My co-host is Rob Lienti from EFI. Rob, would you care to introduce yourself?
Well, thank you, Greg. Hello, everyone. My name is Rob Lienti. I'm a Senior Sales Development Manager for EFI's Fiery Business Unit, and I support EFI's partners and customers in the Eastern region of the United States.
Thanks, Rob. Now, everyone on this webinar, I'm sure, has been told countless times over the years that they should automate their workflows. But we've all also been told to eat our vegetables, sit up straight, and exercise, which pretty much the same results. The real question is it worth it? Would you please start by discussing some of the areas where automating workflows can have real financial impact for printers and implants?
Sure, Greg. So let's first look at print shop bottlenecks. Many times I'll walk into a print shop and the presses are idle, and I'll ask the owner, are you guys slow today? Are your presses down? And usually the answer, Greg, is no. We're waiting on files from pre-press to be checked, or I'm waiting for my operator to set up the jobs, or the files are being fixed in the graphics department. These are examples of bottlenecks which can limit press capacity, thus reducing production. And as you know, Greg, if the presses are not running, they're not making money. Workflow automation can eliminate this problem. Another area is reduction in labor costs. As many on this webinar probably know, finding skilled labor in the print industry is a real challenge in today's marketplace. In turn, when you employ a skilled worker, their services can come at a premium. Because of this, you want to use their skills on higher value jobs versus the less profitable jobs, which in many cases are redundant. By automating redundant jobs, you can reduce your burden labor to increase your profitability. Another area is the elimination of errors. With profit margins of repeatable jobs like business cards low, one mistake in setup can mean the difference between making money or losing money on that job. So for example, simply forgetting to turn on duplex for a two-sided business card can create a loss for most businesses. Workflow automation can fix this by automating repeatable job types. Another area is the reduction in touch points. So with many repeatable job types being of the short-run nature, it is vital to be able to set these jobs up quickly with limited user intervention and with a limited number of touches or clicks. As you know, Greg, with each touch point, you run the risk of introducing errors into a job. Automation can reduce your touch points, thus reducing setup time, limiting errors, increasing output capacity, and of course, profitability. And finally, fixing customer files. You guys are getting jobs in with bleeds, without bleeds, missing fonts, incorrect file setup, inconsistent setup between customer files for simple jobs. The list goes on and on. Workflow automation can fix the most common customer files issues without user intervention. So, how do print providers feel about automation and how can it change their business? InfoTrends did a workflow ROI study and polled print providers across North America. Their findings included the following. 30% believe that workflow automation will reduce errors, increase operation flexibility, and provide businesses opportunities within their organization. Another 40% believe that it will result in higher output capacity for their shop, resulting in the ability to produce larger revenue streams. And 50% believe workflow automation will reduce labor costs in their organization.
You know, Rob, I agree with everything you said, all those points, and I agree that the time and waste they incur makes it tough to competitively price short-run work and still be profitable. However, printers do manage to get their jobs out today, and even though printers might see the value of automation, many of them haven't taken the plunge. So what do you think's stopping them?
That's a great question, Greg. So let's go back and look at that same InfoTrends report. When we polled those same printers, 33% of those print providers believe they do not have the skills internally needed to implement and use a workflow automation tool. 45 believe these solutions are too expensive for their organization. 50% though believe they do not have a clear picture on the ROI when implementing a workflow solution.
Wow, so you're saying that half of the printers interviewed feel that automation will reduce their labor costs, but half of them also don't understand what the ROI is. That's
Correct.
pretty astounding. What's Fiery JobFlow's approach to overcoming these barriers?
So EFI's approach with Fiery JobFlow is pretty simple. Number one, the solution needs to be user-friendly and easy to use, first and foremost. Number two, the solution needs to be simple to implement. I'll discuss this a little bit further in the next slide. Number three, scalability. EFI understands that every print shop's needs, automation level, and budgets are different. With Fiery JobFlow, we provide you a solution that can grow as your needs grow. Number four, ROI. It needs to be measurable. EFI provides tools to help measure the ROI on implementing a workflow solution like Fiery JobFlow. We will review the ROI tool that we have together in this presentation. And finally, number five, training and support resources. As you know, Greg, EFI provides our customers a plethora of free training and support tools for Fiery JobFlow. I will show everybody on this call today how to access these resources a little bit later in this presentation.
Well, that makes sense, Rob. But honestly, the two barriers I most frequently hear are cost and implementation. Printers worry about justifying an expensive automation solution, and they really worry about how they're going to implement it. Do these guys have resources to analyze, architect, program, and roll out a complex workflow automation system? How does JobFlow address these concerns?
Well, Greg, let me start with your talk about the implementation concerns of automation first. So when I discuss with customers how to go about implementing a workflow solution, I use an 80-20 rule as a guideline. So when I say that, I mean look at the type of jobs your shop does and then break them into two groups. Let's look at the first group. I consider the 20% group. So this group are high-value jobs that bring in more revenues to most people's business. Because these jobs tend to be unique, more complex, require more touch points and skilled labor to manufacture, this is not an area where I would recommend focusing your automation efforts, okay? So this brings us to the second group. This is the 80% group. The frequently lower value jobs your business runs day in and day out, but very important to your business. Jobs like business cards, postcards, booklets, flyers, so on and so forth. These are jobs that rarely change in terms of layout or creation, with only the file changing. This is really where you want to focus your automation efforts. This is the sweet spot for Fiery JobFlow. So after you determine your 80-20 groups, it is best to start with the very simple workflow and organically grow them as needed instead of trying to architect a complex system out of the gate. Business cards, for example, regardless of how unsexy they are, this is a great place to start. Create the workflow, test the workflow, and analyze its effect on your business. I can promise you, Greg, you'll all see a positive result by taking this approach. From there, start to look at other jobs in that 80% group and look to grow your workflow automation from there. So now let me address the second question regarding the cost of workflow automation. As I said earlier, Fiery JobFlow is very scalable. This allows print providers to get into workflow automation based off their needs and budget. Let me show you how Fiery JobFlow addresses this. So first off, Fiery JobFlow is available on every Fiery external server, and it comes in two versions. JobFlow Base, which is our entry-level offering, is free. It's perfect for businesses to see for themselves if workflow automation is right for them. And it includes the following capabilities. It gives the ability to submit jobs through a folder or through the cloud-based structure. It allows you to output the jobs, again, to folders, to cloud folders, or to a Fiery. And from there, we give you these other capabilities. We give you the ability to convert files from non-PDF to PDF formats. We give you the ability to use the Fiery pre-flight and image enhanced capabilities built into the Fiery external servers. We give you the ability to collect jobs based on a specific criteria and batch them for printing and merge them for printing. And then finally, we give you the ability to use the Fiery Impose tools to actually do the layout and integrate this into the workflow, as well as some limited configurable tools that are available to route jobs to a folder or to a cloud server. Then the second version we have, Greg, is Fiery JobFlow. Now this is a paid version of this, and this gives you additional capabilities. Number one, we give you a Connect module, which allows you to connect third-party applications to JobFlow or scripting, okay, for some really robust automation within your workflows. We also give you an approval process, which allows you to send emails with soft proofs of jobs to get jobs approved more quickly to keep your presses running with your customers' work. Then we also give you the ability to pre-flight and correct files using Infocus's pit stop technology. And then finally, we give you tools to analyze files within JobFlow that it will look at files coming in, and based off of what it sees in the files, it'll route it to other workflows within the system using copy and move capabilities. Additionally, Greg, EFI provides a resource library that currently has about 25 free workflows available, which can be downloaded and used by anyone with Fiery JobFlow Base or Fiery JobFlow. These workflows can be used as is or edited to meet the needs of the print shop. Our folks here at EFI feel this is a great approach to allow printing businesses the tools to get into workflow automation regardless of needs, level of expertise, or budget.
Well, that's pretty cool, Rob. I mean, I really like how you can incrementally build the system. A lot of times you're forced to architect your system for your end state and you don't know how the stuff works. It sounds like with this, what you can do is drop in a couple of simple workflows, get them working, see some real advantages, and then gradually add them. And even if you added one new application a week, at the end of the year, you have 50 different workflows in the system. So I love the way that you can build it and meet your immediate needs. But we've seen a lot of PowerPoints. Do you think you could show us how this works?
Sure. Let me see what I can do for you here. So let's switch my screen here. we're going to do 4 or 5 different workflows and kind of review these. These are ones that customers, that are on this call probably see day in and day out. So the first one here is going to be adding bleed and impose. So what we're going to do here is we have a calendar, okay, that is laid out, and you're going to see this is 8.5 by 11, so it doesn't have any bleed built into it, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to add bleed to this file, and then we're going to use the imposition tool inside the Fiery to do the imposition, and then we're going to add the crop marks, fold it, and actually ticket it to select the proper paper, all without touching the file. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this file into what we'll call a hot folder. And what will happen is JobFlow will pick up the file, and we'll go open up JobFlow. It's in a browser, so you're going to see it's coming into the jobs in progress area. Additionally, we have an area where we can queue jobs, an area where we can collect jobs. We have an area here where if a job errors out because it doesn't meet a criteria, it will come and we will get an email alerting us. We have a completed list of jobs. And then finally in this GUI, we have an area where jobs will wait for approval. So once the job's done, as you can see it happened that quick, we can click on this little link and you're going to see the end result of this calendar. So here if we look at it, you'll see right in this area the bleed along with the crop marks. We added that on the fly. We imposed it. It's all ready to go. So let's go over to Command Workstation. We'll go to Job Properties, and you're going to also see that Fiery JobFlow actually ticketed this. So you're going to see we added the stapling, we added the folding, we select our media, paper catalog is selected, and we turned our duplexing on. This is an example of what a lot of our printers deal with, which is dealing with bleeds, doing imposition, and having to fix that upstream takes a lot of time and effort. With JobFlow, we can eliminate a lot of those steps. Let me show you another example here, Greg. This is another one a lot of my printers go through. This is an example where we get the file in from the customer, and it's got a cover page that's 8.5 by 11, but they paginated the inside to printer spread. And then, of course, as we go through this, we'll get back to the back page, and we're going to see the same thing. We've got a cover page. So again, what happens is we've got to take this into the design area, and they've got to reassemble this so we can then use the tools to impose it. So we will, again, copy this into a folder like so. We'll go back to JobFlow, and this time we're going to actually go click on this link and see what's happening underneath the hood. So what you're going to see here, JobFlow is literally using the correct module to actually split the pages that it saw bigger than 8.5 by 11 in half. Then we're using the imposition module, okay, to impose it. And then down below here, we're doing the ticketing. So we're doing all those steps hands off without the user touching the file. And again, if we go look at the file, you can see that we were able to lay it out the way we needed to without touching it. That's a pretty cool one. That's very common in the print shops. So this next one here is one of my favorites, Greg. This is called Business Card Automation. I'm sure a lot on the call that deal with this day in and day out will see the value of it. So here we have a business card that is finished size, so it doesn't have any bleed in it, and it's double-sided. So now we have another card that came in from the customer that is portrait, and this one does have bleed in it, okay? And this is single-sided. We have a third card that is landscape, again double-sided, but this one has bleed in it. So you're starting to see a trend here. What you're seeing is we're getting cards in of different sources from customers, and they're all different. And normally what happens is we've got to lay this out inside of the graphic arts department. Here's one that somebody put on an 8.5 by 11 document, and we have to figure out how to fix this. And finally, here's another example where the customer exported this out of Illustrator, added crop marks, registration marks, color bars. It's just a mess, and we've got to try to fix this. But with Fiery JobFlow, we can put those all into one folder. Again, one folder to fix all those problems without touching the file. So let me show you what happens here. So this is starting to get into some unique automation. So let's go look at the color bar and go down to steps. So again, Fiery JobFlow is first pre-flighting, checking to see if that document is on 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. If it is, it'll move it to an appropriate workflow. If it fails, it'll move it to another workflow. So now we're building some rules into this. Let's see what happens. So here it failed, and now it's moving it into the business card workflow automation. And now we're checking to see if it's one page or two. The reason we're doing that, Greg, is we want to see if it's double-sided or single-sided so we can ticket it properly at the fiery level. So after this, it'll do a check. And if it finds it single-sided, as it did, it'll move it into that workflow and do the rest of the corrections that are required to lay this out properly. So it removes the printer marks. It changes it to a finished business card size. We then automatically add bleed back into the file. And then we'll send it to the fiery to set it up for imposition for our auto cutter creaser. And then we will ticket it for a single-sided business card. Again, all hands off. Let's take a look at the results. So here is the one with all the color bars and registration marks on it, all fixed, barcode on it for the cutter creaser to read, registration marks, crop marks. Let's go look at another two examples here. Let's look at the one was on that letter size card. Just like so. We'll see we're able to scrape that off of that letter sheet and then fix it and put it into the 12 by 18 sheet so we can cut it properly. And then let's look at that single-sided card that was portrait. Again, it knew to be able to rotate that card 90 degrees so we can make it work. What do you think of that, Greg? Good stuff?
Well, I think that's pretty impressive, and I can see how it can save a lot of time on each of those job types. But you still have to have your pre-press person decide which workflow to use and to drag and drop files to the right folder, and that's kind of laborious. You said something earlier about using JobFlow to look at the file, determine what type it was, and make a decision as to which workflow to use. That sounds pretty cool. Can you show that?
Sure. So I usually call this our route jobs by file type. So let me show you how this one works. So again, we're going to get, different types of jobs that come in, but they're pretty redundant. So in this example here, I have a fold-over business card. Okay. I have a pizza coupon book, okay, that we want to create. We have just a regular ticket. Okay, so you're seeing they're all different sizes. All right, and then I have a trading card. And then finally here I have a business card. So what we're doing with JobFlow is we're going to actually look at these different files. And based off of what it sees in the file, we're going to figure out what to do with it. So again, we're going to drop those into a folder. Fiery JobFlow will take over. We'll come in and start processing them. And let's look at the analytics behind this. We'll go grab that fold over business card. So it's pretty simple. What we're doing is we're looking at each job coming in and looking at the size of it to determine what to do with it. So this example here, if it's a menu and it passes, we'll move it to that automation. If it fails, we're just going to continue down the list. So let's watch what happens with this fold over business card. Here you saw it fail the ticket. You'll see it fails the trading card, right? Let's see if it passes for the fold over business card. It did. So you'll notice here, it moved it into the fold over business card workflow. It does the imposition. And then again, it does the job ticketing just like that. Let's see how it handled each and every one of those. You'll see each one of the layouts is a little different. Okay. It's laid out specifically again for the auto cutter creaser, which more and more print shops are using day in, day out to automate and keep the cutting part hands off. There's our ticket. You'll see our trading card. You know what to do with that. Let's go look at our pizza menu. And then finally, we'll go look at that business card. And you'll see again, 5 different job types all taken care of on the fly. Pretty neat stuff.
Yeah, it is. And the thing that really strikes me about this is that, you talked about organically growing, I mean, I could see somebody going up and downloading the templates for the jobs that they do, say it's a business card, postcard, whatever, and doing those and saving some time. And then using what you just showed here to create a workflow. And the first thing it does is it converts every non-PDF file to a PDF. The second thing would be to check, make sure that there's no low-res images or no problems. If it is, kick it out. And then do the business card, the menu, the trading card, whatever. And if it doesn't recognize any of those things, it dumps it into another folder, and it's just the same way you do now. But with that little work, you've pre-flighted every job that comes in without adding any labor. You've automated the ones you can know how to automate, and the other stuff is just the way you do it today. That's incredible. And,
it is.
And I think that's going to be used the way it's going to be used by 90% of all printers and implants out there. But at the same time, Rob, there's going to be the one customer who has a very high value application coming in, and you'd like to be able to automate that workflow for their needs without having to buy another system. Can JobFlow go beyond doing this stuff?
Yes, it can. Let me show you an example of one that we did for a customer, and then we'll actually later on talk about the ROI for this customer. So this example here, we call the subset finishing of various record lengths. So what I mean by that, let me kind of go through this file slowly. We have a 59-page document, and what you're going to see, there's different records in this document. So here's the first record, and we have a cover page. So as we start going through this, there's record 3 or page 3, page 4, page 5, and then we get to a new record. So let's see how long this next record is. So in this next record is 5, 6, 7 pages long. Then we get to the third record. Let's see how long this is. So in this example here, this one was only 4 pages long. So what we have is we've got to be able to put a staple in each one of these records, but the problem is each record's a different length. Okay, so with JobFlow, we can actually automate this process, and I'll show you how we do it. I'm going to actually drag this file here into JobFlow. So I'm actually showing you here another way to actually get files into JobFlow. You can actually drag it into the GUI. But let's go to the job. So in this example here, we were able to create a little script, okay, and identify inside the file based off of some hidden information on each cover page in this, long file where each record was. And based off of that, we were able to grab that information and add it to the job properties of the firing without opening the job and doing this. We can actually record that information and populate each record where it starts by page in the document. And then from there, turn on define each chapter as a finish set. And then under finishing, turn on the left top staple. By doing that, we were able to actually eliminate having to manually staple those sets one by one. That's a perfect example of what we can do with JobFlow with a real unique requirement.
Wow. Yeah, I want to underscore that very few printers are ever going to actually really need to do that. I mean, it is very sophisticated. However, what happens. You come across an opportunity, which is a huge opportunity, and you don't want to then say, well, I can't respond to it until I investigate a new workflow automation solution and implement it and do all this. So this is great to have in your back pocket so that if you get that high value application or opportunity, you can probably handle it. But let's go back to what most people on this call are going to need. I know you can download these templates from your website, but can you go back and show how to use JobFlow to automate, say, the business card workflow, one that supports both simplex and duplex, and just start from scratch and show how easily they are to build?
Sure. Let me show you that. So we're going to go through like 3 or 4 steps here. So the first thing that I always do when I start this, I want to figure out exactly where we're going to start. So we're going to start with the presets inside of Command Workstation. So think about the finished output, what it's supposed to look like. So in this example, you really want to get this on a 12 by 18 sheet of paper, right? You want to lay it out, impose it, and if we're going to, again, use an auto cutter creaser, we want to put barcodes on it and things like that. So a lot of that ticketing normally starts at the firing. So we want to first build that piece at the firing. So we're going to go into Device Center, okay? And we're going to use the area inside of all fireys have, which is called workflows. We actually got some workflow capabilities right at the fireys called job presets. So let's click on that. And we're going to click on the new button, and we're going to create a preset called 500 single-sided business cards. So we're doing this to be able to ticket this preset so it has the right number of copies to make 500 business cards. So we'll go into the job properties, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add in the number of copies that we're going to need, 21. I'll explain that a little bit later. We'll then go select our media, so the media that we're going to print our business cards on. Okay, in this case, we'll use 12 by 18 coded two-sided 300 GSM, and then we'll make sure that our duplex is off. And we click OK, and we click OK again, and then you'll see we've got our first preset done for the business cards. So now let's duplicate this and create one for the double-sided business cards. So I'm going to rename this 500 double-sided business cards. And then we'll go back into the job properties and we'll turn duplex on. Okay? And then we'll just double check to make sure nothing else has changed here. That all looks good. We'll hit OK and OK again. So now we've got the first part done for creating a automated workflow with JobFlow. The second step, Craig, is we're going to actually now use Fiery Impose to create the imposition templates. So I'm going to bring in a business card, in this example with bleed, and we're going to open this up in Fiery Impose, and we'll create the imposition piece. So here we'll come down, select our size of our sheet, we'll select portrait, come up and gang up, we'll click repeat, select our finish size like so, and then we're going to lay this out 8/3. So if we do the math, that's 21 times 24 copies is 504 business cards. From here we'll add our gutters, we'll apply that, and then we're going to go into our marks area, and we'll put our trim marks on and go to our registration and barcode area, add that information, click OK, and then you'll notice we have our barcode there, we have our registration marks, and then we're going to save this as my business cards. While we're typing this, let me reiterate, a lot of you may already have step 1 and step 2 already done in your workflow. We're going to show you how you can take JobFlow and take this to the next level. So now let's create the workflows using Fiery JobFlow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up JobFlow. Again, it runs in a browser. I'm going to hit sign in. And then what we'll do is we'll go to our workflows tab, and I'm going to click the plus button over here. And we're going to name it. So first we're going to name the first part of the workflow single-sided business cards. We'll hit create. So once it's created, you're going to see JobFlow will open up, and it's going to give you an input source that automatically creates your hot folder, an area to convert a PDF if it needs it, and then your output queue to the firing. What we'll do is we'll hit the add button. We're going to go to the module for impose, and we're going to scroll down through this. You can see we got a lot of them there. And I'm going to select my business cards and hit add. So now I've got that part done. The last part I'm going to do is I'm going to select the output. And you're going to notice it connects right to my Fiery. And I'm going to select single-sided cards, and we're done. So now I've created a workflow for my single-sided business cards in JobFlow. So now, Greg, let's create one for double-sided. So it's as simple as duplicating the first one we did and naming it. And then from there, we're going to go in, and the only thing we have to change is the ticketing. which is going to be flipping it from single-sided business cards to double-sided business cards. And we hit save. So now we've got two things done. So now let's add some rules to this using some automation. So now we're going to have the entry point coming in. We're going to call this business cards automation start here. And this is where it gets really cool. So from here, we're going to hit the add button. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to correct any file that's coming in that is portrait, and we're going to make it landscape. We're going to do that by searching for a correct option using pit stop to actually rotate all my pages to landscape. We'll hit add. Now we've added that module into it. Let's add another module. This time we're going to use pre-flight, and we want to look if it's one page or two. So I found a pre-flight that we created called is 2 pages. We'll hit add, and now we're going to manage some rules. So we're going to add a rule, and the first one's going to be if this passes, so if it is 2 pages, we're going to move the job to the double-sided business card workflow that we just created. Let's add a second rule. If it fails, let's move that job to the single-sided business card workflow and hit save. So now we've got some rules built in to make a determination of how we want to route these files. So now let's test it. So what we'll do is, I always do this as best practice. I like to select favorites so I can actually have my entry points on one screen. And then we're going to look at the files we have. So I have a double-sided business card that is in landscape mode. I have a single-sided business card that is in portrait mode. And I have another single-sided business card which is in landscape mode. Let's drag those into my automation. We'll go to our jobs queue and see what's happening. Let's go select one of the jobs, see what's going on. So there you can see it rotated it to all the pages of landscape. It is then checking to see if it's 1 page or 2. In this case, it saw that it was 1 page, so it moved it to our single-sided business card workflow. It's now doing the imposition, and then it's doing the ticketing for single-sided business card. And if we go look at what the cards look like first, you'll see we were able to rotate that portrait business card to landscape so we can cut it properly. There's our single-sided card, which again is laid out as we would expect. Here is our double-sided card, which again is laid out as we would expect. And then finally, let's go look at the ticketing for this. And what you'll notice here is there's a single-sided card, 21 copies, pulling the proper workflow for the single-sided card. There's our second single-sided card, again, 21 copies, single-sided. And then finally, our double-sided card, pulling the proper workflow. So in approximately 5 minutes there, I was able to, do all that, set that up quickly. Pretty cool.
That's pretty good. That's pretty amazing that you can do that in 5 minutes. It's great looking product, and it was a terrific demo, Rob. It really was.
Thank you.
But it's all nice in theory. Do you have any customers who've actually made it work for them? Can you share any real life cases of commercial printers or implants that you can share?
Sure. So let's look at a few of those. So number one here, we have a print for pay. So this print for pay was doing 600 to 700 file fixes a month for their customers, which attributed to about 120 hours of labor or a full-time person. So we looked at the different things that they were needing to fix, and we were able to actually put that into a workflow with JobFlow to address that. And by doing this, we were able to fix all these files automatically, and we eliminated a lot of their bottlenecks from inside the shop. So the best part is we were able to increase their capacity from 20 to 100 jobs a day, which is that's a big jump, okay? And the estimated bottom line to their revenue is about $80,000. And that ROI was approximately 45 days. Another example was a university implant. So this implant is receiving customer files submitted through EFI's market direct storefront, or as most of you may have heard it called before, digital storefront. And what they were doing is they were reviewing these different job types coming in. So there's about 8 different job types that are all the same, but obviously the files are different. So what we did was we created an automation like I showed earlier to analyze all those jobs to have one folder that they all drop into. So by doing this, we were able to route the jobs to the appropriate workflow, eliminate their labor costs associated with the setup and review, and their ROI was about 90 days. Third example is a hospital implant that we have here in the eastern part of the United States, where they're doing approximately 300 business cards monthly. Before JobFlow, 35 mouse clicks and 5 minutes per job to set up. That attributed to about 25 labor hours monthly. With JobFlow, we reduced it to 10 mouse clicks and 1 minute and 5 labor hours a month. And that was basically an 80% reduction in cost for the business card work, and their ROI was about 90 days. And then finally here, the medical billing record company. This one here was the one I showed earlier, where they're scanning and printing approximately 25 patient records a month from one PDF file, okay? And then, as I said, they were at different lengths. So they had 4 workers that had to review and staple these manually. So they would take the stacks of papers off the printer, thumb through them, find where each record started, and then where each record ended and put a staple in, okay? So with JobFlow, as you saw, we were able to automate that process. They reassigned the labor in the shop to more profitable tasks, and their annual savings alone was $100,000. And please keep in mind, this was also, included the printer and everything in this. So they bought the printer, they bought the JobFlow and the setup and so on and so forth. And their ROI was literally 30 days for this. So that's some pretty impressive stuff there.
Nice. I do want to underscore that in my experience, you have to be careful in understanding the monetary value of labor savings. Labor reduction rarely goes directly to your bottom line unless you manage to reduce overtime or save enough to eliminate a full-time position like that medical billing company did. Most companies reallocate these labor hours to other activities, such as business development, which represents real financial value. Now, Rob, you mentioned an ROI tool earlier. Can you explain that and where you can get it? And well, while you're at it, let us know of any other EFI resources which are available.
Sure. So let's kind of review that. So as I said earlier, EFI has created a simple-to-use ROI tool. This tool allows print providers to use their data to create a workflow automation ROI for their business. So let me give you a quick overview of how this works. So what you'll see here, we created this data, okay, and these times here that we're using for how most print providers prep certain jobs like booklets, business cards, adding finisher marks to jobs, and we got this data from the InfoTrends ROI study. So from there, when you open this up in a PDF file, there'll be areas of blue that you can actually enter in your data based off of these different types of criteria. And based off of that, it'll give you a potential monthly savings in hours, again, based off of the data that you've provided into the system. So from there, we then allow you to choose 4 different financial models, okay? Labor reduction, overtime reduction, new revenue from design services, and profit from outsourced job recovery. In this example here, let's look at the labor reduction model. So what we do is we put in, again, the average for the study, and then it allows you to put your value in here. So I put $20 in. So based off of all the calculations the system does from your data, it will give you a potential labor savings per month in a dollar amount. So then we click see the results, and based off of that model, it'll show you the monthly potential save, and it will do some calculations based off of the price you may have paid for JobFlow and other services included, and it will show you your potential monthly investment recovery for JobFlow or for your workflow automation tool. That kind of gives you an example of how that tool works. Additionally, talking about other resources, so We have a homepage for JobFlow. It's efi.com/JobFlow. Here you can find system specifications, what is required to run JobFlow. We'll show you a brochure that can go through and kind of give you some ideas on how it can help, automate your shop and increase your profits. We have a nice little list of qualifying questions. So if you meet any of the criteria within these qualifying questions, this may be a place that we can help you out with Fiery JobFlow. As I stated, you can download the ROI booklet here. Greg, why don't you take this one?
Oh, thanks, Rob. Yeah, you see, when I review workflow solutions for companies like EFI, I also generate publicly accessible product briefings. There's a link to my Printelligence Fiery JobFlow product briefing on the Fiery JobFlow homepage, or you can visit www.printelligence.org to see that and other workflow automation information. The briefing contains 6 short videos covering the different aspects of the solution.
Fantastic. So moving on, also on the resources page, we have a link for a 30-day trial, so you can actually download the full version of JobFlow and try it out. But let's just hang on that one just for a moment. As I talked about earlier, we have an area with about 25 workflow libraries that you can download and try out. We even have some samples that you can download along with it and view some videos of how these different workflows work. Very, very nice area of resources there. We have how-to documents. So again, this will give you some help on how to set different things up, how to create rules-based workflows, imposition workflows, so on and so forth. And then we have an area of case studies. So if you want to read about other printers or print providers that are using JobFlow and how it's helped their business, this is a nice area to go check out as well. Additionally, like I said, we have all kinds of resources here. The Fiery JobFlow training area, so learning.efi.com is a place where you can actually go on and learn how to do different things in more of a classroom environment using Fiery JobFlow. And might I also add, there are all other types of tools here as well for all the other Fiery tools like Impose, JobMaster, Graphic Arts Package, all kinds of learning tools here at learning.efi.com. And then finally, we have our Fiery support page for JobFlow at our EFI communities. So again, you can interact with folks like yourselves that are using JobFlow along with the EFI subject matter experts at communities.efi.com.
All right. Thank you for your time and expertise, Rob. I'm going to turn the controls back over to Joanna for some closing remarks and to address the questions which I see have come in. Joanna?
Thank you, Greg. This has been really great. So while you put your questions, remember you can put them on the Q&A or on the chat window to all panelists. I'll talk to you about some special offers that we have right now. So for you, especially for you who attended this webinar, we have not only a 30-day free trial, but we have a 90-day free trial of the full version of Fiery JobFlow. You will receive in a couple of days an email with a link where you can register to it if you're interested. So stay tuned. We'll receive it in a few days. And the next thing I would like to talk to you about is that you, by attending this webinar, you're already guaranteed a 25% discount on the Fiery Professional Certification. This is an e-learning certification that was prepared by our own Fiery experts for you to develop your skills, enhance your professional development, and transform your business. And this 25% discount is being granted for each webinar session that we have. So if you would like to get another 25%, sum up to a 50% discount, you can attend our next week webinar, which will be Make Ready Automation from Pre-Press to Post-Press. That's next Wednesday on the 20th, same time. There, we would like to show you the value of having an end-to-end, fully automated workflow and integrated solutions. So if you want to participate, you can register on www.efi.com/WOF, and I hope to see you there. So with that, let's start with some questions. I would actually like to start with a question I've seen here quite often is, The question is if this webinar is being recorded and if people will have access to the presentation. Yes, so we are recording this, and in a few days you receive an email with the recording, and everything we're talking about here will be linked there. So just stay tuned. You'll get that in a few days. All right, so the next question I would like to take. Could we add a 3mm bleed workflow work on any file, for example, business card, then a postcard, book, etc., or would we need one for each file type?
Good morning.
I'll take that one. Is Hans there? Okay.
Yes, I am. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, yes, you can do that. Yes. One workflow will take care of the bleed on any type of file like that.
Oh, by the way, everyone, Hans is our product line manager, so he will be helping us answering some questions over here. So let me take the next question. Can the collect function gang up multiple business cards?
Yes, it can. You can set up the collect module to look for number of jobs or number of pages. The workflow that Rob showed waits for a number of business cards to come into the workflow and then release them to be in post 3 up. There's also another question about whether this particular workflow, whether it has a video or some examples. And that's where I would like to point to JobFlow library, also mentioned by Rob, where this particular workflow and many others can be downloaded and imported in Fiery JobFlow. And most of these workflows also have a short accompanying video.
Very good. Can a workflow be built whereas 12x18 sheet can have 3 unique names on it in a 24 up mode, 3 columns with 1 name in each column?
Yes, actually, I found that a very interesting question. So yes, this does require the paid version of Fiery JobFlow because we need the edit module to add the name of the business card. But same would apply. You would add the name to the business card, impose them in the way that you want, and then the name would show up in each column.
Thank you. Which bounding box does Fiery use to determine the size of the file for these workflow checks? Example, trim, bleed, etc.
By default, we use the trim box, but you can change that to look for additional PDF boxes like Dropbox or Media Box.
There's another question. Does this work with Duplo 616?
I've shared a link to our Duplo integration with Fiery Impose, which lists all the Duplo devices where we have native integration support in Fiery Impose. The Duplo 616 is not listed, but I do have workflow examples that we created for other customers that have the 616, where we add the marks as an individual step in the workflow.
And can you split a job into sets of 500 pages and have them offset?
Yes, you can. Actually, the last example that Rob showed where we have a more advanced type of workflow, we can actually tell if you want to create a workflow that says, or even have the ability to change the number of pages that you would like to offset. We can create a workflow that will tell the Fiery print this job but offset every number of pages. Yes.
And can it work? Oh no, that was already read this one. Sorry. And was all that with base level? So I'm guessing she's asking about the demos.
So the business card workflows that Rob showed were done with the paid version. If you do not require the correction of bleed or job routing, then those can be done with the free version of Fiery JobFlow. If you go to efi.com/JobFlow, one of the resources that we make available is a comparison between features that are available in the base version versus the paid version.
And is there an example for the 3 business cards in written text or video?
Yes, both. Again, if you go to efi.com/JobFlow, there's a section called library. This workflow can be downloaded as a sample workflow. And I would actually encourage attendees to do that, to import workflows and these workflows. And then with little updates, you can make them suitable to your particular environment. Know that the library is also directly accessible from within Fiery JobFlow. So there's a menu section called Library that if you select that, it will automatically take you to that particular web page.
And ganging up business card usually requires a collection of different cards on the same sheet. This requires 2 steps in position. Example, 4 cards are collected. Each card is imposed 1 times 4. Then each group is stacked for a sheet of 16 cards. Maybe this is linked to another question.
Yeah, this is an excellent question, actually, and something that we didn't show during the demos, but you can actually stagger in position steps. So if you do a 1x4 and you want to impose that 1x4 to the final layout, you can actually do that in both the free version and the paid version of Fiery JobFlow. This is a very nice feature of the free version of Fiery JobFlow, where you can have multiple imposition steps.
And can this be used for printing to a non-Fiery connected wide format printer?
Fiery JobFlow, both the free and the paid version, require a Fiery in the environment. This can be a Fiery that drives Cutsheet, or it can be Fiery XF that drives wide format engines. But as long as you have one of those devices, you can also set up workflows to drive other non-Fiery devices.
And how are layered cards handled in Fiery JobFlow?
Layered cards. Don't really know what's meant with layer cards. If it works with PDF layers and one needs to manipulate the layers in the PDF, we can do that in Fiery JobFlow. Maybe if this person can, we will reach out directly to see what the challenge actually is with regards to this.
Mm-hmm. And I also have here a question about the cost of JobFlow.
I would invite you to reach out to to Fiery Sales. Rob mentioned cost in the presentation. MSRP is $44.95 out of the top of my head. There's 1 year of support and maintenance that is required. As part of support and maintenance, you get all updates and upgrades, not just for Fiery JobFlow, but also for the accompanying and Focus Pixel plugin that is bundled with Fiery JobFlow.
And there was one question I think wasn't very clear when we talked about our customers. So what do you mean by ROI in a number of days if JobFlow Base is for free?
So the ROI use cases that Rob mentioned for the customer use cases, they were all with the paid version of Fiery JobFlow. This attendee is absolutely right that there's little question about ROI for the free version of Fiery JobFlow, and that's something that Rob also mentioned. Even if you can start with the 80% that where a simple percentage of that 80% can easily be handled with the free version of Fiery JobFlow, then the ROI is even more impressive than with the paid version. The cost associated would be the work and the time spent on creating those resources, and that's also something that we've seen in the response in the report from InfoTrends, that there's still unfortunately a considerable set of customers that mentioned, I don't have the time or resources to create workflows, as where through JobFlow Library, through having these resources available ready to download and import, you can get up and running with the free version in a significantly less amount of time than it would usually take if you need to start with a blank canvas.
Very good. And can the jobs be submitted from MIS systems such as Printsmith?
Perfect. Excellent question. Yes, we've actually done a considerable amount of work to be able to integrate, obviously, first with our own MIS solutions like Market Direct Storefront. We do have customers who also use it with Printsmith. Please reach out to your Fiery sales representative to learn more about that. Sometimes the integration is almost out of the box. Sometimes customers have additional requests that would require some customization, but due how we integrate it with these solutions, that work is always very manageable.
Yeah, and related to that, there's a question about Market Direct Storefront. So if you have it, what does the JobFlow solution offer that is not handled with DSF templates workflow?
Oh, we have a number of customers that use Market Direct Digital Storefront with Fiery JobFlow for a number of use cases, whether it's to correct the job when the job is submitted through MDSF, or whether it's to manipulate the business cards that come in through MDSF, or whether it is to manipulate the banners that need to be printed to Fiery XF, and we want to scale the image to the correct size. We want to add slot lines. We want to add additional information in the slot line of the banner that needs to be printed. One of the key benefits of using Fiery JobFlow with our MIS solutions and also other MIS solutions is that JobFlow will then treat this job like a JDF job. So if the job is submitted through JDF, JobFlow will manipulate the PDF that's associated with the JDF and then submit the job as a PDF job, as a JDF job to the output device, whether that's a regular Fiery or Fiery XF.
Okay. And is JobFlow a Windows application only? And if so, is it acceptable to install directly on the Fiery server?
Yes. You can install Fiery JobFlow on an external Fiery server, either through Fiery Software Manager. If it doesn't show up as Fiery Software Manager, you can download the standalone installer from EFI.com and run the installer on the Fiery. We have many customers that run Fiery JobFlow either on the Fiery, in a Windows virtual machine, in their data center, or on a cheap standalone Windows desktop client.
Okay. Can JobFlow pick up email attachments from email server folder?
Not out of the box. That would require some scripting, but definitely doable. I would like to make one more comment about the Windows environment. While JobFlow is installed on a Windows system as a service that runs in the background, you can access JobFlow via a web browser on Mac, on Windows, on Android, on iOS. So the client can be anything, but the server runs on a Windows machine.
Very well. I see we are running out a little bit of time. I'll take two more questions, and if we didn't get to your question, don't worry, we will make a FAQ document and it will send together with that email with the recording and everything. All right, so let me see the next question. Are there any workflows for Fiery XF?
We do have workflows for FireXF. They are not listed on EFI.com on the library. I've made a note that we should definitely do that. We do have workflows that would apply to FireXF. So if you have a question about that, feel free to reach out to our Fiery sales team, who can then work with the team that helps our wide format customers with implementing JobFlow workflows.
Very good. And for a last question, are all functions presented by Pitstop Edit accessible through JobFlow?
Yes, actually, JobFlow ships with Pitstop Pro. So as part of the JobFlow license, you also get a Pitstop Pro license. So you would actually get more than Pitstop Pro, and every single feature in Pitstop is supported by Fiery JobFlow. As it happens, last week we released an update to Fiery JobFlow that supports the latest version of Enfocus Pitstop, Pitstop 2020, and we support all the features that are available in Pitstop 2020.
Very good. Thank you, Hans. So that's all. So as I mentioned, I will send you all an email with the recording and all the FAQ and everything we talked about today. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our panelists, Rob and Greg.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I hope to see you next week.
All right. Look forward to it, Joanna.
Yeah. Bye.